Welcome to the 2025 Kia Carnival. It's a minivan, but Kia's wanting us to call it a lifestyle utility vehicle. I'm in the hybrid version, which is all new for 2025, and this is also a mid-cycle refresh. So for the video, let's get some baseline numbers. Let's go through what's new. We'll go through perks, quirks, and irks, a little bit of pricing, a touch on competition because there's not really much in the minivan segment, and that should wrap us up. So for the hybrid, I am in the top trim SX. All hybrids run off the same engine, and that is a 1.6 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. Combined figures are 242 horsepower, 260 pound-feet of torque. It's through a 6-speed automatic transmission. Thank you for not saddling us with a CVT, and it is front-wheel drive. As a comparison, if you want the gas version or the ICE version, internal combustion engine version, that runs off a 3.5 liter V6. Power figures are 288, which is a little more than what we have here in the hybrid, but torque only comes in at 260, which is 10 pound-feet less than the hybrid, and that runs off an 8-speed automatic, and again, front-wheel drive only. So more on the numbers side. Let's jump into fuel consumption. So both the ICE and the HEV, hybrid electric vehicle, run off a 72-liter fuel tank, and the hybrid gets a combined 7.2 liters per 100 kilometers. That's only a smidge over what the Sienna gets, and total fuel costs yearly, according to Natural Resources Canada, rings in at $2,232. Contrast that with the ICE version, and that's 11.1 liters per 100 kilometers, so nearly 4 liters per 100 kilometers more if you're opting for ICE over the hybrid. Total estimated fuel costs, $3,441. That's a difference of $1,209 you'd be saving in fuel. Theoretically, there are some variables if you opt for the hybrid as opposed to the gas, and that's going to come into play quite a bit once we jump into pricing and competition. So what's new? Well, the hybrid trim is entirely new, as it was a gas-only version from the time it came out in 2022 until now. The headlights have been refined. No longer is it that thin line up front. There are some vertical lines as well, and it's very Hyundai Kia as far as design goes. You cover up the badge, and I think most people would be able to say, I think I've seen that before on a Hyundai or Kia vehicle. Same thing with the taillights. It used to be a long, thin strip, but now there's some depth to it through some vertical lines. There's a new HVAC system, which I thoroughly dislike. It's the HVAC/media in one. It's not new to the Carnival. It's existed on a bunch of other Kia offerings. More on that later on. You have the new shifter. It is no longer a lever like it was before. That little dial, again, not new for the Kia group, but new for the Carnival. Weird flex here, but you get bigger cup holders. Next up is the multi-zone voice recognition. A little gimmicky. I can't see anyone using it, but it's there as an option. You have your ambient lights, an optional head-up display, over-the-air updates, which is a very smart move here, especially being 2025. And I reviewed the Tucson recently, and I believe that also had over-the-air updates as well. Optional digital rearview mirror on the top trim SX Plus here. Highway Drive Assist 2. There's a cool thing here. It's their side parking warning. So if you're doing parallel parking, you'll get buzzed if you're too close to the vehicle in front of you or behind you. But now there's a sensor that lets you know you're a little too close to something beside the vehicle, and that also kicks in for their forward collision alert, as they call it. They should just call it side collision alert. I don't know why they didn't call it that. And finally, as all good mid-cycle refreshes go, the infotainment system is a little different. It's got the curved screen display, pair of 12-inch sized screens. Lower trims still have the same unit, but there's a 4.2-inch TFT in the middle, whereas the top two trims, the EX and the SX Plus, get the fully 12-inch digital screen for the, why have I lost my words? Oh my goodness. For the instrument cluster, sorry. Everyone gets the 12-inch infotainment screen. Apple CarPlay takes up the entire screen, so very cool there. So that's gonna wrap it up for what's new. Let's jump into the perk side of it. It's a minivan, so the sliding doors are the #1 perk here. Somebody asked this week if I would take a Telluride over the Carnival, and I said, no, thank you. I'm taking the Carnival 8 days a week. Those sliding doors are so handy. They're so helpful. You reduce your chance of getting dinged in a parking lot significantly. Getting in and getting out of the vehicle is so much easier because there's so much more of an opening. You're not capped by the amount the rear door is open. So you can get a top trim SX Carnival for roughly the same price as you can get from the second of 4 trims for the Telluride, which is also an SX trim. I'm not saying if you're on a budget, get this. It's still very well put together and offers quite a bit. But if you want to stretch your dollar as far as it'll go, the Carnival, among the other 3 minivans in Canada, being the Pacifica, the Odyssey, and the Sienna, you know, dollar for dollar, this is where it's at. There's a long list of standard safety, and if that's something that matters to you, a huge check mark here for the Carnival. Highlights here include the adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, forward collision alert, lane follow assist, lane keep assist, high beam assist, and a few others. And next up is the side-to-side seats. I think it's a cool thing. I can't see that much of a difference for humans being back there. You know, whether you're 2 inches or a few more inches apart. Where I can see it coming in handy is if you're putting stuff or things there that are not humans, like a piece of flat pack furniture or skis or guitars, or you need to have that separation, but you still also need to have people in the vehicle in that second row. That's where it comes in handy. Next up, we have the adjustable regen for the hybrid version. So you have your paddle shifters here, and if you push the positive one, you can go through different levels of regen, and then you hold them both down, and then you can get the automatic levels of regen, and it's 1, 2, 3. So that's a pretty cool move there as well. I think that people won't use it. I think they'll just set it to one specific setting, and then off they go. The fuel efficiency here is a huge perk, and I touched on it before, 7.2 liters per 100 kilometers. For a vehicle of this size, that is absolutely astounding. You can get a heated wired windshield, definitely comes in handy in cold Canadian winters. If tech is your thing and you're looking at a minivan, there are wonderful high-res cameras here. In the top trim, there are 5. So you get your front camera, your rear camera, one's beneath the mirrors, and you get the one for the digital rear view. And that one's gonna be the highest res, but even just putting the car in reverse, it's so crystal clear. On the hybrid, power sliding doors come standard. On the gasoline trim, they are not. Let's jump onto the Quirks side of things. So the standard set of bulbs up front are 3, and they're stacked. But if you go for the LED option, it's 4. And I think it's a bit of a waste of resources. I think they should have just given everybody the same trim, because there's only 3 trims to go on here for the hybrid. There's the EX Plus, LX, and SX Plus. Next up are that there are manual sunshades, when most other manufacturers are going for the powered ones. And I get it, just save a few bucks here and there, and save some weight as well. But a little interesting. This could be a perk, this could be a quirk. I'll call it a quirk because the quirk pile's a little short. On the SX Plus trim, you get dual panel sunroofs, not a panoramic one, and you can actually open and retract that sunroof in the second row. On the hybrid, you get a tire fill kit. On the gasoline trim, you get a spare tire. And I get it, there's not enough space to have a spare tire with the battery, so you have to go with the tire fill kit. Final quirk, and it is certainly not new for Kia or Hyundai, but the rear wiper being tucked up at the top as opposed to being at the bottom, I've always found that a little on the quirky side. You don't get as much coverage with the swipe when it's up top. When it's on the bottom, you get that nice 180-degree piece of coverage as far as the wipe zone goes, but you definitely don't get that here. Let's go on to the Irks side. First up is the key fob and the buttons on the perimeter. It is such a terrible and awful and just absurd design, specifically here, because you have your lock, you have your unlock, and you have your remote start, and you have your power sliding door for the driver's side. You got your power sliding door for the passenger side. You have the remote parking forwards and backwards as well, and you have your panic button. That is way too many buttons to slam on the perimeter of a key fob. Next one is on the driving side, and I'll start with this. It drives well for a minivan. It's a 3-row vehicle, just like the Kia Telluride, very similar dimensions. So I'm not knocking it for driving poorly. It drives, again, pretty well for a minivan. It's not fast, it's not quick, but there's plenty of power for passing and getting up to highway speed. So I'm not knocking the driving impressions itself. The brake pedal and the accelerator are very touchy, very sensitive. You'll get used to it, but there will be, I feel, a bit of a steeper learning curve before you get used to that modulation of the brake pedal and the accelerator. A few times I've felt like I was 16 all over again learning to drive. And, I gently squeeze down on the brake pedal and it kind of have that jerky motion to it. While highly technical and very well engineered from a capability aspect, this HVAC/media panel just below the vents, it's not great. The buttons are so small and your eyes are off the road for a couple of seconds too long while you're playing around with whatever it is. I didn't like it when it first came out. I certainly don't like it now. Set yourself to auto and try not to use that HVAC side at all. The heated seat, cooled seat, and heated steering wheel controls are underneath the driver's right elbow. So sure, you could maybe take some stabs down there and guess at what you're doing. Nothing comes up on the infotainment screen to say what you've done, but you're pretty much looking straight down if you want to adjust those. The last one is those goofy VIP seats in the rear. I don't know, it just seems really over-engineered, and I can't see a lot of people getting a lot of use out of it unless you're on a longer road trip. And this is a function-first commuter vehicle. It does your groceries, it does your errands, and it fits a lot of people. And if that seat does go all the way back, those people in the third row are kind of compromised on space, so I don't know how happy they'll be. All right, perks, quirks, and irks are done. Let's jump into pricing. So you have 3 trims. Here are your Canadian figure MSRPs. $46,545 for the base LX Plus, a little more at $49,445 for the EX, and $6,000 more for the SX Plus. Not too bad. Quick look at the competition. The Sienna goes from $50,000 to $70,000. A $70,000 minivan is wild, but it's Toyota, so you get the longevity there. Looking at the Pacifica plug-in hybrid, that goes for around 60-ish, and then the Odyssey goes from 50 to 60. Odyssey is gas only. As a comparison to the gasoline version, it's only $2,550 more to get the LX hybrid than the LX gas. It's only $550 more to get the EX hybrid than it is to get the EX gas, so I think that's the sweet spot there. And on the top end, the SX Plus for the hybrid is $2,550 more than the SX Plus gasoline. In the beginning of the video, hopefully you're still with me, it's $1,200 that you're saving on fuel. So for that $2,550 of a difference, you make that up in 2 years, and the rest is not quite profit, but you're up and above, and you're saving fuel every time you drive the vehicle, every time you stop at a gas station. So if you are planning to hang on to this for more than 2 years, hybrid, get the hybrid. I cannot stress that enough. Get the hybrid. Power figures are similar and dimensions are similar, but it's that massive fuel savings. And let's just quickly dip into the Telluride before we get things wrapped up. There are 4 trims there, and the equivalent trim being the SX Plus is $58,830. So you could either get a second from the bottom Telluride, all-wheel drive, doesn't have it here, or you can get a fully loaded minivan. I would go minivan. I would absolutely go minivan. And the last reason to look at the Carnival instead of the Telluride, 11.7 liters per 100 kilometers for the Telluride, and again, 7.2 here. So with that, I thank you for watching. If you have any questions on what you've seen, let me know in the comments. I'm always happy to engage in respectful conversation. I invite you to join our social media platforms. If you have not subscribed, I highly invite you to consider subscribing. I'm not gonna force you to, obviously. I can't force you to, but I put the request out there for you. Consider subscribing. We're over 20,000 subscribers, and that happened a couple of weeks ago. So that's pretty awesome and cool, and thank you everybody for that. So with that, I'm gonna stop rambling. I thank you, I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.